Welcome to the Growler, a Who Dey podcast, hosted by Paul Dana and other bald friends like Mo Egger, Dave Nimitz, home of all your Bengals breaks, takes. Welcome to the Growler.
All right, welcome to the latest edition of the Growler. Paul Dana Jr., Dave Nimitz of The Athletic. Excited to be with you here. Schedule week has finally arrived, Dave. The excitement is palpable. We know a game that we already knew who they were going to play, but now we know when. It's just I'm bubbling.
It is the event, if we want to call it that the NFL squeezes the most out of. Like it doesn't need to be what it is. But hey, at least the Bengals were among the early leakage, if you will.
Ew. That's terrible.
Yeah.
I would be actually a good comparison is what is the event that the NFL squeezes the most out of over the course of the calendar year. If we were doing a list popular in today's internet, what if we did something like that? I think the combine's in the running.
Yeah.
Or
especially if you compare it to like 10, 15 years ago to now. Like it's crazy.
They've really stretched that thing out to turn dudes working out into a massive event. So the schedule, one of my favorite days of the entire year is the announcement of the announcement, like the announcement of when they're going to announce.
Yeah.
So when we got the announcement of the announcement and the speculation of when the announcement of the announcement would come, that's my favorite part. It's the ultimate haven't we gone too far moment every offseason. And I always enjoy it. And now it's here. And now we get the early leakage, as you put it, that comes around that as we lead up to Wednesday night. We'll get the official schedule, 8:00, the full release. We will have a schedule release reaction podcast on Thursday morning. Myself and Mark Chalafu will dive into all the best of the trips, of the breakdown of how it looks. So if you have questions that you want us to get to about the schedule or really anything else, but if you specifically schedule stuff, make sure you get those in on Wednesday night to the Growler Podcast at gmail.com, and we will tick through those. But otherwise, we're going to have a bunch of reaction to some of the more fun stuff of all these trips, because we know that's what you guys are most interested in, is booking those hotels, booking those flights, and figuring out what else is going on at some of the fun trips. So I'm going to get more into the schedule with Mo Egger, who's going to join us in about 15 minutes here, and we'll dive into that. Plus, look, I got to talk aliens, because aliens became a big part of the conversation again last week, Dave. Started asking Jermaine Burton about the background of, he has a lot of stuff with space and aliens, which you pointed out to me specifically going on in his socials, and it sparked quite a conversation. So I'm going to get into that a little bit more with Mo as we talk about that after the schedule. A little bit, some rookie minicamp was this past weekend, a few thoughts there, some other news that we have to tick through. But let's start where it is right now. It's all about the schedule.
Yeah.
Bengals Chiefs, the early leakage is week 2 at Kansas City. This is the first time, Dave, that the Bengals and Chiefs have gone onto the early portion of the schedule. They've been in December or the postseason all 4 times that Burrow has played against Mahomes, and then also last year with the Browning-Mahomes matchup, have all been later in the season. The league has plucked those specifically to be there. So I do find it interesting that they shoved that thing into the beginning of the season. Is the league telling us they know something we don't about Burrow's wrist injury?
Don't do that.
Conspiracy theorists unite.
Don't do that. Yeah. Well, I'm mostly surprised it wasn't a primetime game. I mean, I know they have to give every network and every slot some premium games, but it just seems like it's always tailored to just be a primetime game. But it's almost as if they got up and looked at your mock schedule on The Athletic this morning and decided to just screw you right out of the gate, because you were looking at that one as maybe best case scenario end of the season, and they went against the grain this year. So
they did go against the grain a little bit, and that's okay. My mock schedule is out for those that have missed the mock world, but I like it for a lot of reasons, okay? I'm never going to stop doing this. I don't care how much you guys criticize it. This doesn't matter, because there are criteria that matter. The schedule release has been blown out of proportion, as we were saying, in a million different ways, but there is a small sliver of information here that does matter in terms of how teams go. And so I kind of lay out some of those that I think that are important to be looking for. The biggest one, Dave, in this division, especially in recent years, when you know how close this division is projected to be, how brutal it is, and the margin for error is so thin. And the Bengals started 0-5 last year. They were 0-5 in games that mattered in the division and got beat up. They have to fix that. What is one thing that has happened? Teams do not win on the road in prime time in this division. They don't. 2-11 the last 5 years in those scenarios for the road team. One of those wins was with Tyler Huntley sitting and Baltimore playing their backups for Pittsburgh. And the other one was a 2020 ridiculous game where Lamar Jackson had to go to the bathroom mid-game, if you remember that. It was like,
you remember that.
47-42.
He had some early leakage in that game.
Leakage in that game. And so you end up with a bunch of games where it's been too hard to do. Like it's just so tough to win in this division, and to do it when the team has everything going in, those atmospheres have proven very tough. And so if the Bengals could not have a season like 2022 where the league handed them the delightful, how about you do all three of your road games in division there? One of them got flexed out, but the schedule maker still said, suck it, Bengals. You could maybe get one or two of those, because I think a lot of those games will be top picks for prime time. That could be a big advantage when you're talking about what you're actually going to be looking at. Yeah,
that's true. And back to the Chiefs on everything, like the Chiefs go Ravens, Bengals right out of the gate. Is it possible that, speaking of the division, that two division teams could give themselves a nice advantage in the conference by putting the reigning two-time champions in an 0-2 hole? Like, I feel like that is something both the Ravens and the Bengals should probably try to embrace and just say, get out fast and put them behind the eight ball, especially because we don't know. They might not have Rashee Rice for the beginning part of the season, depending on how that shakes out. So,
enemies unite, hold hands together. Together we must topple. I mean, but here's the thing. Kansas City does this every year, right? They start 2-3, 3-4, and they figure it out. And one year it's the defense, one year it's Mahomes's targets, and there they go, and they're in the AFC Championship game. They're in the Super Bowl. They win the Super Bowl. Like so you're kind of getting them at a good time, but you're also getting the Bengals now at a not so super time, because what have we seen from Cincinnati in the first 2 weeks of the season under Burrow? They are 1-7. And that game was a kind of a miracle win against Minnesota, where they had to get a fumble when Minnesota was about to kick the game-winning field goal potentially. They have not started fast. Mostly that has been due to any number of weird Joe Burrow maladies in recent years. And so the pressure to shift away from the slow start amplifies a little bit when you throw Kansas City into week 2. So I think that's a decent thing to note there. The other thing is Jay's not here. Jay's on vacation. One more week without Jay here for us. But so I will take his place. Paul's got stats. How about this? In week 2, the last 3 seasons, every game has been a Bengals 3-point loss. Exactly. All 4 starts for Burrow against Kansas City, the game has been decided by exactly 3 points, 3 wins, 1 loss for Burrow. I'm not saying you know how many points the difference is going to be in this game, but that's a decent amount of precedent. So there you go. I'm giving back to everybody now. There you go. You know it's going to be, if you see any line over 3, hammer it. Hammer the spread.
That is a wild stat, though, that would happen that many times. But, I mean, we're just going to be watching Burrow's health, aren't we? I mean, it just looks like that could once again be the X factor on whether they get out of the gate well. It'll be interesting to see who that first game is, too. And if they stack them like they just did to the Chiefs and put 2 tough games out of the gate, better hope Joe's up to full speed, because he's got to stop getting behind to start every season.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another part of it is expect that game to be at home, because the Bengals are away that weekend, and the idea of them starting them both back-to-back on the road is probably more unlikely. So percentages are looking like they get a home game. You'd probably like for that to not be a division game. You want these new coaches. You want these new quarterbacks. They have a bunch of them on their schedule potentially this year. I mean, you've got potentially Bo Nix in Denver. I don't know if he's going to be the starter or not, but he could. Jaden Daniels and Commanders. Drake May potentially in New England. All coming to Paycor. All could be an early. So something that you just get them as they're trying to figure it out in week 1 before they turn. The numbers show that. In my story, I have that kind of, it's obvious, and that's obvious to the eyes, but it's also obvious to the stats that you get them early is where you want to see it. New coaches. I mean, look at Sean Payton in Denver last year, right? It starts so slow, but give them time, give a good coach, a new coach time to get things going, to get things figured out and figure out what kind of team he has, and they start winning more. So you want to get all those out early if you can. So look out to see if you can get some of those on their schedule.
Yeah, and you've got Washington on your mock as the first. I think that is the ultimate ideal one. There's just so much new there.
Yeah.
But there's talent.
Even ownership.
There.
Ownership.
But
new
there's
first game winner, new owner.
There's a good draft they just had. Like, that is a team by the end of the year that might have some momentum. So, yeah, if you can get them right out of the gate and they're still figuring things out, especially if they go into the season, I'm assuming Daniels will be starting to start the season. That's ideal, but who knows? This is why we're so excited about tomorrow night. Find it all out. Even though they will trickle it out one game at a time for the next 24 hours. And
in other less important news, there's stuff going on with the actual team, not just the timing of the schedule. And so a few quick things. Tyler Boyd made official in Tennessee. Bengals posted a cool little goodbye video. Our good friend Mark Shalafo pointed out, still waiting on that Irv Smith goodbye video that hasn't surfaced yet. So goodbye video for TB. A lot of teammates reposting that and things like that. And so that's obviously cool to see a beloved guy here, and he'll be in Tennessee. Who knows when the Bengals and the Titans will play? More intrigue, Dave. It could be any number of Thursdays or Sundays or Wednesday. Christmas, Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Any day is possible with the NFL. What should we start calling the NFL, Dave?
The Narcissistic Football League.
There it is. You dropped that in the pre-show, and you told you need to save that. Save the good stuff. Make sure you get that in. Narcissistic Football League is here.
I mean, really, on the Christmas deal, for one, they can't just let people just open presents and not deal with football in the day.
On a Wednesday.
2, can't just let the NBA have their day. And then 3, let's get one more streaming service in there. Let's make sure you have to sign up for all streaming services if you want to watch the NFL. Don't give a Christmas gift and just put that on Fox and CBS. No. Go get your Netflix.
No, absolutely not. Scrooge is saying, my Christmas gift is that you're working.
Like, what other platforms are they going to start putting things on? You're going to have to have like LinkedIn Premium to stream a game. Like, where are we going with this? It's just anything that has a streaming service.
Watch the NFL and get a low-paying job. See, we try to leave the schedule and we can't.
I know.
It sucks.
It's magnetic.
It is magnetic. So Antoine Winfield from Tampa signs an extension, and you say, Paul, what the hell does that have to do with the Growler? This isn't the Buccaneer. Well, it leaves T. Higgins as the absolute loan of the 9 franchise or tagged players that did not receive a new deal this season. Good to be one. Good to be one of one. You can't be. Now, obviously, we've talked about that a ton, so I'm not going to go into that. And T. Higgins not here yet. We are recording this before Tuesday's practice open to the media. Yesterday was sort of the first practice with this group of rookies and vets together. Tuesday, the media back in, and we'll have an open locker room there. So, but again, do not anticipate T. Higgins being here throughout this offseason at all. But if he does, I'll make sure you know at Paul Dehner Jr. on X. You know who is there? Trey Hendrickson and our good friend Jeff Hobson, Butchie over at Bengals.com in there yesterday. Of course, team had practice yesterday, so Butchie there as a fine Bengals employee and talked to Trey Hendrickson, who had some interesting things to say about his trade request and his approach to this season. And I think all of these things tell you one thing. So much for that drama. I mean, it's like, remember when this was supposed to be a thing and the distraction's going to blow everything up? And then it was like, oh, okay, now no one's going to care. He said a couple of quotes from Trey here talking about the front office. They do their job well. They were transparent and respectful in terms of dealing with the trade request that he did, what he did. He says, this is where separating business and the team is difficult. At what point am I contradicting what I want? Long-term, winning games, all those things are what I want to do here in Cincinnati, and removing myself from the team doesn't help the team. The stats mean I've had a good team surrounding me. It means that I've had teammates who have given me the opportunity for individual achievements. I can't rush the passer on my own. I can't scheme a pass coverage like Lou can. That is freeing me up on 3rd and 8 for a sack strip. I can't do it without Zach Taylor giving us a 14-point lead when sacks are more available. That's football, not just defense, not just defensive line. It's a team. Sounds like a guy bought in. Sounds like a guy who's going to make us all forget. You know what we're going to say in like mid-October, Dave? Wait, was that this year that Trey Hendrickson did the trade request thing? Did that happen? I forgot that even happened, right?
Yeah.
It feels like we're already to that point with Trey.
I mean, this doesn't surprise you at all. You were saying that from the get-go, that this, especially when the retirement buzz came out, that, I don't know, that screamed an agent trying to use whatever leverage he could get out there. But yeah, I seem to recall from day one, you said this is not something that's really to worry about.
No, it's not. And I appreciate you patting me on the back for that, Dave. I need that positive self-esteem on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
These summers get long, these mini camp, all this stuff, it wears you down. You just need somebody to prop you back up and say, you did a good job, buddy. You did a good job.
Yeah. And I'm such a colorful, outgoing, exciting person that it really lifts you. I know it does.
I know how hard that was for you, Dave.
I had to muster up the strength to pay you a compliment. So yeah.
So that feels like it's kind of over. A good sign, certainly there. You had a lot of those pieces out there on the field on Monday, working out. Of course, Joe Burrow still a part of this, and you start the process. I know the rookies really excited to get out there for the first time, feeling like they're with the team. You know, they did the rookie mini camp thing where you're just out there with your guys. It was much more that on Friday, as we kind of talked about last week, not really that big of a thing. They're just out there. It was a short workout. There wasn't a ton happening. I love the overreaction of, did you see the way he attacked the ball on the out route and the way that he ran this, and look at the explosion? Look, I get it, but they are literally telling these guys, take it easy, okay? We don't need any of this. And I mean, everybody wants to get excited. It's the first time you see somebody wearing the uniform. There they are in the stripes doing what looks like football moves. They're just, at the very least, I would only say it's not the way that the coaches are judging these guys. There's a little bit of an observation about how they showed up. Were they on time to things? Were they in shape? That's much more than any of these videos of a guy, running a route or showing some block technique, right? Oh, look at the stutter on his kick step. Like that's, that type of stuff is not something that they're really analyzing today. And they weren't analyzing at rookie camp as much. It's just trying to get guys up to speed so that by the time camp comes around, training camp, they feel like everybody is fully comfortable to be kind of the best version of themselves. We can get a little bit more into some of the specific observations. I want to bring you a little bit of Erick All in a little bit here. But first, before we do that, I do want to shift gears and bring on our good friend and yours from ESPN 1530, Mo Egger, to switch into the show. What's going on, buddy?
How we doing?
We are doing absolutely fantastic. You know why?
It's schedule release eve.
Oh,
Yes!
we've been unable to hold it in here. We keep trying to go to other topics, and it just draws us right back. I can't. We already did like almost 10 minutes on the Chiefs game. We just couldn't stop ourselves.
This is one of the great days in all of sports because it's an event. It's going to occupy this huge chunk of real estate amid the all the other stuff going on in sports, and no one's going to walk away a loser. Like, no one really is going to be big mad at the end of the schedule release. There are going to be some things that maybe you prefer be different, but I love this because it's one of the signature days on the sports calendar, and nobody loses. It's awesome.
No. Well, you can lose. You can. I would argue in 2022 they lost when they put 3 division games in prime time on the road. There are ways to lose, but for the most part, what's the first thing we do? Which one am I going to? Right? Mm-hmm. Let's talk trips. So let's talk trips, Mo. Let's talk trips and this schedule. When you look at let's give a reminder to people of the possible aways here. Obviously, Ravens, Browns, Steelers. You got some big cities on the docket this year, which is fun. It means big events. Dallas, LA, New York, Charlotte, Nashville, and Kansas City, which we now know is in week 2 on September 15th. So, which one of those are you most intrigued by getting a chance to put together a trip to?
So, for me, it has to align with the UC schedule, which is a little bit more difficult given the fact that the Bearcats now have so many games in the western part of the country because of the Big 12. This exercise was maybe a little bit easier when they were members of the American Athletic Conference. And so what it does, though, is it puts some of those more Western Bengals games in play for me, right? So typically I would automatically cross off anything kind of in the western part of the country. But if there's a chance we're going to be in the western part of the country anywhere for UC football, that's the first thing I do. I always look to align. Like last year, UC played at Pitt, Bengals played at Cleveland. One half of that trip was good, the other not so much. What was it, 3 years ago? The Bengals played the Ravens on the road, and the same weekend UC played at Navy. That was absolutely perfect. I'll go back 11 years ago. UC played at Illinois, and the Bengals played in Chicago against the Bears. That was perfect. The Bloomington Bearcat trip, partnering up a couple of years ago with the latest Bengals trip to Chicago, which did not turn out so well. So that's what I always look for. I look for that first. It's a little bit more difficult to do at face value because of the Big 12. At the same time, it does open up this part of the country that I typically wouldn't have that much of an interest in going to. Then I look at, okay, where have I been before? Well, I've done Kansas City, and I'm not opposed to doing Kansas City again, but I've done Kansas City.
But you've never done warm Kansas City, which we might get for the first time this year. How about that?
I did that Sunday night disaster in 2018.
Oh, that's true.
When
that was a great trip. That was the fan in the Bengal Mexican wrestling mask flipping off the camera on NBC, one of my favorite Bengals games of all time.
That was one of the most interesting 3 days I've ever had because the Bengals got flexed into Sunday night. My flight for home was supposed to be on Sunday night, so I had to change it. Then my flight got canceled. Then I had to jump in a car just without any regard to price because I had to drive back to Cincinnati to be on the air at 3:00, and I pulled up to the radio station at 3:00. So that was an interesting 3 days. So, but that was a pretty warm week. It was late October, right? That was mid to late October. So that was warm-ish. I've done Kansas City. I have no desire to go to MetLife Stadium. That place is a pain in the neck. There's nothing nearby. I have zero desire to go there. So at
Beautiful
Giants,
New Jersey.
Yeah.
By the way, I have bad news for you on the
Yeah.
New Jersey note.
Uh-huh.
So there was a chance to pair Bruce with the Bengals.
Yeah.
It would have required the weekend that they just gave to the Chiefs because you
Right.
had Baltimore on September 13th and then the festival in New York or
Yes.
Jersey, I guess, on the 14th.
Yes.
That would have been your Bruce combos. And so the Bruce dream died early, which is
It
kind
did.
of sad for you. There's going to
It
be no
did.
Bruce combo.
And had that been a combo that I could have pulled off, suddenly I would have been open to going to MetLife Stadium. But at face value, I have no interest in going to MetLife Stadium. I haven't been to Carolina. I did not get to go on either of UC's 2 Belk Bowl trips because I had to stay back and call basketball. So I have not been to that stadium. I've been to Charlotte once. But folks who have been to Bengals-Panthers games in the past have talked about like it's a pretty cool trip. You should try it. So that's on my radar.
It's my number one.
Okay.
I think
All right.
I have loved Charlotte trips. One, depending on the time of year, you can get like Charlotte is just awesome. It's a great food city.
Mhm.
It is a fantastic place just for weather potential. And eyes-wise, it's very Cincinnati-like.
Uh-huh.
So it's very easy to get around in this. Let's be honest, Panthers fans aren't super hard to deal with. They're not really passionate in the same way that you would like they're passionate about their team, but not about hating you. And so it makes it for a very fun atmosphere. I love Charlotte as a whole. And so I would recommend to anybody to keep an eye on that where that one lands. Get that one in before you want early in the year. Any time before Halloween on the Charlotte trip, I think it becomes instantly one of your number ones. Easy flights, a lot of direct flights to Charlotte.
Mhm.
Also,
Yeah, and not a terrible drive. I mean, if you choose to go that route, not an awful drive.
No, you could do
Especially
it.
if you're going with buddies, you could split that one up. I've had one interaction with a Carolina Panthers fan. Remember that game in 2014 where they tied?
Oh,
Where Nugent
that was
missed the kick, and we're walking.
Great
I was with now my wife. We're walking out of the stadium, and these Panther fans come up, and they're like, "Woo!" And like, you realize your team didn't win either. I can walk home. You have to drive back to Charlotte.
Yes.
My team didn't win, but neither did yours. So, but yeah,
when I say the passion isn't quite there in the same level as celebrating ties, I feel like that kind of speaks to it.
So let me tell you what I am rooting for more than anything. So I've been to Nashville a billion times in my life. It's awesome. I'll never say no to Nashville. I was not able to go last year. It kills me that I wasn't able to go to the playoff game in 2021. But with the exception of the playoff game, which in itself is kind of a primetime game, even though it was late on a Saturday afternoon, when they've played the Titans, they've been day games, right? I am badly rooting for Bengals at Titans on a Thursday.
Yeah. That game has screamed Thursday night football since they hired Brian Callahan and a bunch of Bengals now. Like,
Correct.
It feels like it very much could fit in that hole there for them.
Right. So I could turn this into go see the Bengals in Nashville, which I've done before. But then I could fold it over to a Friday in Nashville. Ideally with a Bengals win in our back pocket that I can spend all day celebrating and kind of get a mini weekend in Nashville without it spilling over into the weekend. That's what I'm rooting for. This is what I'm rooting for. I'll also tell you, I went to Baltimore in 2014, which was a blast. I haven't been. I went back for the Ravens, Bengals, or Bearcats Annapolis combination.
Yep.
But I was sick for the Bengals Ravens game in Baltimore. Didn't feel very good. Didn't have a great time. I want to go back and have the experience I had in 2014, which was awesome. I really love that city. I went into that game with some trepidation because I had wondered, like, our Ravens fans and it was great. People were awesome. People were just awesome. That was, as a visiting fan, and the Bengals won the game, but as a visiting fan, it's one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. And maybe it was isolated. Maybe I'll go next time and end up with, I'm missing some teeth or something. But so the three that are sort of on my radar are Carolina, Baltimore, and Tennessee.
Yeah. I say it a lot. Baltimore is the best trip of the AFC North. Like by a long, and that's no disrespect to Cleveland or Pittsburgh. I think Baltimore is great. It's very accessible downtown around the stadium.
Yeah.
Places you can stay, walk around. I mean, talk about good food. You can go off on crab cake or whatever when you're down there. So Baltimore, you can't go wrong. You'll get intensity of an important game. You'll get a great town, a lot of comfort in knowing where you're going, just because it's all very familiar down there. So I recommend Baltimore if people ever get a chance and are just like not sure about some of the other ones. Can I throw in a weird one? I would almost never be excited about going to Los Angeles. What if it ends up the same weekend as USC UCLA? I one time want to go to the Rose Bowl and check out USC UCLA. I would pay whatever to go check that out on Saturday if you had Bengals Chargers on Sunday or whatever like that. I would be worth it to me, like bucket list style, to go check out that game. That's on the list. And then the same way Dallas is on the schedule this year. One, you could bucket list Thanksgiving. I mean, I don't want to lose Thanksgiving, but if you do, it better be for something cool. And I think going to Dallas for a Thanksgiving Day game, it kind of has to feel something cool. But also October 12th, Red River Rivalry down there.
My.
Would be a fun.
You're speaking.
That would be a fun one if you could get down there that weekend. So a couple of days to think about with some of the bigger cities that are on the schedule that otherwise could kind of be like, man, not the greatest trip. But it could get hooked up with some if they get it at the right weekend.
I still have PTSD from my trip to Los Angeles for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. And it has nothing to do with the game.
No.
And I've been to the Rose Bowl. I haven't been to see USC, UCLA, but I've been to the Rose Bowl for UC played there in 2018.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, 2018, which was awesome. And the Dodgers were home the same weekend. And so I turned that into a long weekend and saw 3 Dodgers games, and I saw the Bearcats beat the Bruins. So that was cool. The Jerry World experience on its own. Now, I've only gone for the Cotton Bowl, so I could say that I've seen Jerry World, but to do it on Thanksgiving, I'll admit would be really cool.
Yes.
Sign me up for that.
That's about the only way. That's about the only way I get excited about Dallas, unless there was some other big concert or event that happened to be going on that weekend. It's fine. Like Dallas is totally fine and good. But like,
when is Texas, Oklahoma?
October 12th.
Well, that's going to take a back seat to a UC at UCF that day. So that's not doable for me, but that would be a great pairing. It'd be a great pairing. I don't know. Are you interested in the Justin Timberlake tour, Mo? Sure. Yeah, I've seen Justin Timberlake in concert. It was a good show.
Saturday, 12/14 in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
On Potential. Would you be interested in Usher?
Less so, but sure.
You could see him in LA on the 21st, Dallas on October
How
4th.
much are tickets to go see Usher in Los Angeles going to cost?
I don't know.
No?
What's Usher's pull? I assume still pretty hot.
I got to think after the halftime show, pretty significant.
There's no question. There is stuff going on in Kansas City. Hank Williams Jr. on Saturday night at T-Mobile in Kansas City on that Saturday. There you go.
I'm not sure what the bigger train wreck is, that Bengals game that I saw in Kansas City in 2018 or Hank Williams Jr. Yeah. I don't know.
It's accessible to you.
So what looms over this every single year is I haven't been to a Bengals Steelers game at, what do they call the place now? Acrisure. Yeah. I haven't been to a Bengals Steelers game there. I saw Bengals Steelers at Three Rivers my freshman year in college.
You've really never gone to a Pittsburgh game?
So I've been to that stadium for UC Pitt 3 or 4 times. I've never gone to Bengals at Steelers. I was this close to going last year. It was the Saturday before Christmas, I think, the 23rd. I was this close to going, and then the weather. I watched the game, and I'm glad I didn't. But I was this close to going because it was like a 4:00 game, and I'm like, you know what? I can get up early Christmas Eve and be home by noon, or I can just come back right after the game and still get a decent night of sleep and be ready for Christmas Eve. The placement of the game in close proximity to Christmas kind of kept me from going. Also, like, I kind of decided game time decision, and then Burrow gets hurt, and it's like, But I've never gone to see the Bengals there, and I've been to that stadium, and I actually really like it, and I know no one wants to hear this on this podcast. I've never had a bad time in Pittsburgh.
No.
I think it's a fun city, man. I went last September. I've been to a ton of Reds Pirate series. I've gone for other reasons. I've seen UC Pitt. I've seen Pitt basketball against the Bearcats. Like, I've never had a bad time in Pittsburgh. And the Bengals game that I saw there in 95, Jeff Blake torched the eventual AFC champions on a Thursday night. So every year I look at that game and go, okay, is this when I pull the trigger? Because I've heard both. I've heard people say it's a nightmare if you're a Bengals fan. And I'm not going to do the thing where it's like, oh, just wear like teal or something. No, like, I'm going to go to a Bengals game. I'm not going to just sit there and pretend that I'm neutral, or that I'm rooting for the Steelers, but I'm not very vocal. Like, no, so I've heard people say, like, dude, it is like the Attica prison riots if you go to that game. And I've also heard people say, like, you know what, that's overrated. Just don't be a jackass, and people are going to be fine. You know me, man. Like, I don't seek confrontation. I'm not fighting you because you root for a different team. That ain't my jam. So I just want to go and like, if we give each other a hard time, I'm in. Like, let's do it. Let's do it in a good-natured way. Let's do that. If that's part of the equation, that I want to go to Pittsburgh because I've never seen the Bengals Steelers at that stadium. I like that stadium. I like Pittsburgh. It has the potential to be a pretty good game. Maybe there's a high stakes on that game. Like, there's a lot of reasons for me to want to go. And it's the sort of thing that I could just drive up on Sunday if there's like a tough UC conflict on Saturday. I've never done it. I've never gone really as an adult. And so I don't know that this is going to be the year. And it's often hard for me to find people who are like, yeah, let's go to Pittsburgh, because they've heard the same rotten things about that game experience that everybody else has. And so then do I go by myself? Like, I'm not opposed to going to things by myself. I'm going to a concert this summer by myself. Like, I've done a lot of things by myself. I have friends, and it's like, all right, you don't want to do that? You're not going to keep me from not doing it. I'm going. So do I go to a Bengals Steelers game by myself? Then do I put myself at extra risk? These are all the things I am debating and thinking about as the schedule release gets closer.
I feel like in a divisional road stadium, you should abide by the buddy system. I think you're best off, just in case.
All right.
Just to be, football is family, Mo. You know you've seen these videos. Well, so just to be sure.
So in the event that the Steelers game in Pittsburgh aligns with my schedule, and anybody watching or listening to this is looking for an extra, because every time now, I do have a friend, he and his son went to the game in Pittsburgh last year, and they invited me, and that's why it was for me kind of a game time decision. Most of the people in my life, when I bring this up, they're like, dude, no way, you'll get killed. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, are we? And then I've even had like Steelers. I don't have a lot of friends who are Steelers fans, but when I talk to them about like, yeah, I'd like to go to that game, they're like, dude, you'll be fine. Like, again, don't be a jackass.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody watching or listening who has that game on their radar and they want an extra to tag along, I may be willing.
Forget mow your lawn contest. Mow your guest. Let's go.
Let Mo impose. Let Mo impose on your weekend fun in.
Yeah, he's sitting in your back seat, complaining about the Knicks offseason move.
Yes, that's right. Or the Bearcat game I just watched the day before.
Yeah, exactly. I want to get you out of here. I have one more thing that's really important. I want to bring you a piece of the beginning of a much longer conversation that I'm not going to bore everyone with, that I had with Jermaine Burton in the locker room after the rookie mini camp practice here. So I want to bring you this little pice right now.
Can I ask you a weird question? Why are you so into space?
Because I don't know, it's something about it. When I was younger, it was like I was like 12 or 13 probably, and like I started finding I watched like UFO documentaries, all that kind of stuff, and sightings and everything like that. And it stuck with me, like something about it, because I don't know, it's just something about it that sticks out to me, and I feel like there's a lot more stuff out there that we don't really know.
I'm with you. I hear you.
So it's like
no, we're always. There's a joke on a podcast I do where we always are talking about let's keep this alien conversation at the forefront. There's a lot of stuff happening and people are not paying enough attention to. So you're with me on this.
So after I fell in the tune with it for some years, and I'm like, bro, when I thought about it, I'm like, bro, it's not a week that goes by where I'm not just sitting down watching some stuff about it, So I'm like, it's like either space or some alien stuff. So I was like, I'm finna start using it with something aliens, they different, they're different in a different space. So it's like I started putting it into the mindset, look, it's like you're different, you this. So it's like it's something that just stuck with me throughout the years.
You're a believer.
Not a week goes by that he is not thinking or watching something about UFOs or aliens, Mo. I mean, if you were on the fence about the Jermaine Burton pick before this, I have to assume that you're all the way on the side now where you're for it. You're in it.
What does that say? It says order Jermaine Burton 81 jersey.
Yeah.
That's our guy. What I love is my point to you has been everybody, every living human being at some point has had a fascination with outer space. Every single one of us. Some might be unwilling to admit that, but every single one of us. Now, some, for some that fascination was fleeting. It came and it went. For others, it is stuck. I love someone for whom the fascination has stuck and he's willing to talk about it. And now I want to know so much more. If we can get Jermaine Burton to just participate in our semi-weekly discussions about outer space, the possibility of extraterrestrial life, and what else might be out there, let's do it. That's my guy.
So you should know it went there eventually. There's about 5 more minutes of it going in different directions. He's a big SpaceX guy. I was more if I'm going up, I'm going to trust the NASA people over Elon's crew. But he's a SpaceX guy. And he started talking about when he would go up, how long he would be willing to go up for, and was really into, really looking at, I believe in finding out what's going on. This is not fake. This was not fake. This was all very real. And he, of course, talked about a time where he planted a alien mask with one of his friends in the stands at the national championship game when Georgia beat Alabama. And when they won, he ran over to him, took the alien mask and put it on and wore it during their celebration of the national championship. That's how dedicated he is to keeping aliens at the forefront. I mean, he sounded pretty open to coming on and talking through this a little bit more with us. So perhaps he's going to end up being a regular guest for these segments.
Well, and I'd like for this to happen because you're a NASA guy, and that's where I lean. I'm on the side of experience. NASA's been doing this for a long time, but then there's the Elon Musk component here, SpaceX. He's a SpaceX guy. I want to know, what factors do you consider before you decide to hitch your wagon to one or the other? Because it's not like booking an airline flight, right?
It's a one-time shot.
And there's really a lot that can go wrong. So when you make the decision, all right, I'm gonna go in a NASA space capsule, or I'm gonna jump aboard the SpaceX train, what factors are you considering? Is it price? Is it carry-on luggage? Is it likelihood of death? What are the factors?
Percentage chance of death? is probably up near the top for me.
And so, having not really researched this, I will say that I'm Team Daner in the fact that if you're telling me I can go, hey, here's the guy who bought Twitter, or here is the NASA folks who have been doing this for generations, who are you going to go to space with? I think I'm going with the NASA folks.
His argument would be you may never go to space because NASA's not sending people up to space very often, and I don't seem to have a ton of interest in it. Whereas Elon says, look, I'll send you up there.
Yeah.
Let's go. So just keep that in mind.
We
can delve into this more as we go forward with
point.
Jermaine. But anyway, just as people, and you know what I like? We've talked about, and just to kind of have one serious bow on this, but like, you know, his personality being viewed as different, right? And that being a part of the thing, and he's kind of embracing it. He kind of embraces it. Like, I'm different.
Yeah,
I'm different. I'm weird. Good. And so to me, I thought this was kind of an interesting first step for him, where he was really passionate talking about this stuff. And I'm like, man, you're in my wheelhouse. Again, it went on. I didn't want to give the whole 6-7 minute conversation about it, but it went on for a while. It was fascinating.
Was it with Myles Garrett when, you know, he had an interest in dinosaurs, and then we had to do the thing like, well, he has other interests. Is he really committed to football? And it's like, you know, I've watched him play. He seems pretty committed to football. So I'm glad maybe we don't do that anymore. Like, we understand, like, these guys are allowed to read books and watch shows and actually care about stuff that's not their job. So I'm glad that we've maybe moved on from that. Although if he plays poorly, someone's going to bring up this podcast and go, you know, his heads are in the stars. Like, he's too busy thinking about Jupiter and how he's going to get to outer space to catch the football. So I'm sure that at some point this is going to come back to haunt him. But yeah, I like people who are different and willing to say, yeah, I'm different. That's cool. Good for him.
Yep. And just wanted to let you know, because I forgot to tell you this last week, but I have a story coming out on who is going to be your summer radio darling.
Yeah. Well,
Cole Burgess.
Okay.
Cole Burgess is going to be your summer ESPN 1530 call-in darling, as people are going to be talking about how good he has looked in shorts and shells from Cortland. Is he on your list?
No, that topic is the 3:30 block with
Boom.
you and me today.
I've got it ready for you. I'm working on it. The story will be out soon.
Okay.
I'm gonna just feed you right to the wolves, because they're gonna be loving every Cole Burgess highlight that they can turn into you. You can feel it.
How do you feel about, really quick, and I know we're going to talk about this on my show, how do you feel about Bengals Chiefs week 2?
I think it's good to get Kansas City when they typically are not as strong. The Bengals typically start slow. The Chiefs start slow. So I think it's kind of a wash. I'm happy to go there. When it's not cold, for me, selfishly, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I would prefer it when there's higher stakes. I think that is what has made it great. There has been a ton on the line when they have played every single time, Burrow versus Mahomes. And that will not be the case here, because whichever team loses, they'll be like, oh, they always do this. And it won't really matter as much. But Bengals and Ravens have a chance to combine forces and put the Chiefs into this year's hole.
Yeah.
That people will disregard.
Enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, exactly.
My first thought was, just as an NFL fan, what has made those games so much fun has been where they've been on the calendar. That doesn't mean it can't be a great game in September. It doesn't mean it can't be an impactful game that's going to reverberate all season long. Like, Bengals Chiefs is must watch if they play the game in May, which would be kind of cool. And I think if Roger Goodell had his way, that's what would happen. What has made, even the game last year, what has made those games so much fun is there's always been so much very specifically riding on them. And there's obviously going to be a lot riding on it in September, but there's not as many specifics. And so I'll be the first to admit, when I saw that this morning, I wasn't mad. I didn't go like a 8-tweet screed about how I'm pissed off I am, but I was mildly disappointed, because I know what that game is like when it's played in December.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it takes a little bit of the luster off of it, and I don't know if it reflects nervousness of not getting Burrow versus Mahomes and nervousness about injuries with Burrow. I don't know why that CBS chose to put it so early, which it's because it has almost always paid off for them big time waiting on it, but maybe that's part of it. But either way. All right, Mo, we'll have plenty of time to get to that on your show. Make sure you're listening from 3 to 4 every Tuesday on ESPN 1530. I'll be on with Mo, and he's on all the time, 3 to 6, Monday through Friday. You can find him there, unless you take days off, which you did last week. Congratulations to you.
Thanks.
We'll see you this afternoon.
All right, man. Thanks.
Yep. All right. Great to have Mo Egger join us. Dave, do you have any thoughts on that alien conversation? It was pretty serious stuff there.
I love how well Burton fits into this theme on the show. Like, even when you were kind of laughing at the questions you were saying to him, he was very Mo-like in his sincerity about the existence of aliens. So that's exciting that, you know, we've got this outlet, someone on the team that is into this. But to back up, my pro tip for Mo is, if you're going to go into the hostile environment of an NFL game, which I've done many times in the opposing jersey, you take your wife with you.
Yeah.
Because there's a primal dude thing. Then when multiple dudes are there rooting for the other team, then it becomes a dude, you know, we got to show who's tougher. When you're with your wife, they're like, you know, he's got his wife, we'll leave him alone. And if you can get her to wear the other team's jersey, if there's a reason to do that, then they assume you're just going to bicker among each other. So they're going to leave you alone. I've done it. It works. It's a good pro tip. So if he goes into Pittsburgh, you might want to take the wife, use her as a buffer, a human shield.
Yeah. What if the wife doesn't want to go or has to stay home with the kids? Do you just find a random girl? I feel like that could cause more problems on the other front.
That's a whole other mess. And you don't want to force the wife to go either, because then that's going to be
tell the wife,
hostile.
Don't worry. I know you can't go. You have to stay home and take care of our children, but I am taking another girl so that she can use as a shield to keep me from getting in a fight, because otherwise I would definitely get in a fight. I feel like that's a conversation you need to avoid. I think it's either the wife says yes or you just take your chances, or you don't go.
You don't take Candy from Tinder. You either take the wife or you suck it up and just go with the dude brawl. But if you can get the wife on board, I'm just saying it's a good option.
Do women? I haven't been on Tinder, so I was luckily married well before this became a thing. But do women on Tinder use like fake or stripper names? Like, are there lots of like Candies and Destinies?
There lies the problem with me referencing it, because like you, I've never used it. I believe I was married before it even came along. However, I just, for the sake of a joke, Candy was a really strong.
It was a good pull. I don't have a problem with it. I was just making sure that I'm not missing out on something.
No.
That there's like 1,000 candies.
Go dip your toe in and see. That's up to you. But man, I don't know.
These are some bad ideas that are happening for relationships so far. All right. Quickly before we go, I do want to check in on a couple of thoughts from rookie minicamp, specifically a couple of players that I talked to beyond. Obviously, you heard from Burton, and we have some thoughts on that. And otherwise, you know, a lot of everyone saying and doing all the right things that you would expect. What you look for is somebody who's like, you know what, I really wish I wasn't here right now, or I'm so happy that I can eat McDonald's just like Chad every day now. Everybody seems to be excited to be there, saying all the right things. And, you know, everybody's going to be the next superstar. On that note, I want to warn fans right now. Don't do this to these guys. Don't say Erick All is the next George Kittle. Stop doing this. Don't say Amarius Mims is the next Willie Anderson. Don't go saying that these guys are going to be. Did you see? Have you heard? He's definitely. Take it easy, okay? Let them grow into roles and start playing the season before you start putting insane expectations on some of these guys, specifically guys that are day 3 picks. I know that's like the anti-fandom. Like, everybody wants to get excited about the new shiny toy, and I totally get that. And we're going to do that plenty. But I just would warn. You know, people are like, geez, Paul, can you be more of a downer? Just let us be excited about the new picks. It just ends up sometimes being unfair to these guys. And when everyone is thinking, oh man, they're going to be just like this thing. And it's like, no, not necessarily. I mean, he was a day 3 pick. Maybe there's potential there, but holding people to certain standards can be a big reason why they're weirdly viewed as failures and that stuff gets used against them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The one thing that I will say, though, that I saw out of this that is exciting, and it has nothing to do with who he's the next guy, is Chris Jenkins. Just because when he was asked what does Houday mean to you, like, you got to at least be jacked up that this guy's attitude is exactly what you want. Now, maybe he's not what everybody's going to want him to be, but so far, just from like a culture standpoint, everything that guy says and does seems like something you want. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I think the way he is in his reputation as a workout guy, as a personality, what he did on the field at Michigan, if he can make that translate on the field, everything else is off the charts with him. So you hope. He feels like if you're going to get excited about somebody, he feels the safest excitement of the entire group. But again, he plays kind of an anonymous defensive tackle position. But whatever. I don't have a problem with it. I more worry about it when you get into some of the later round picks. A guy like Burton, a guy like, Erick All, Terry McLaughlin, all of these, especially skill position players, it's easier to get excited about those and think about things. All specifically, look, I think he has a lot of potential if he stays healthy to be really good, and it's proven that he was really good. I don't know what that means. He said he expects, and the trainers have suggested that he will be healthy for camp and able to participate in training camp. That's good. He's coming back off an ACL. That's a known recovery, something that we've seen dealt with a lot. And I think some of the conversation he had, it was myself and James Rapine and Kelsey Conway were kind of talking with Eric a lot longer at the mini camp availability. And I'm going to bring you a piece of it a little bit where we kind of talked about him and I are back buddies. He has the same initial back surgery, the microdiscectomy that I had in 2018. I hope he doesn't follow my lead and end up having to get a fusion 4 years later. But it really can get overblown. And I thought some of his conversations about how the back thing has become overblown and his idea of being injury prone has become overblown was good. And conversation about that. I'm going to bring you that, and we'll talk a little bit more about Erick All and injuries and his status in the tight end room here. Here's Erick All with myself and James Rapine and Kelsey Conway at rookie minicamp.
Previews on you after you got selected, they were saying like you had like a very severe back injury. Like they were saying it was like potentially career ruining.
Yeah, because my post, when I posted, I said, what did I say, like a life-changing surgery? Mm-hmm. It's because it was life-changing for me. I mean, I've never had a back injury before, and just having that back pain, it was just like scary. Like I couldn't do anything. So it was tough. It was tough for me, and that was like my real like first like injury like ever. So like that kind of like put me like in a dark like place at the time. But it was like it was like literally like I woke up from the surgery. Didn't even remember going to sleep because you know how that stuff works.
The anesthesia.
Yeah, the anesthesia is like next thing you know you're waking up and it's like I was fine and I was good and I was able to do everything. I could sit down. And I had a cold at the time, so like I wake up, like when I have a big sneeze, like my back is not killing me, and it's like it was just a life-changing surgery. But in a good way.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, did you kind of? I mean, obviously can't take it back, but do you feel like you had to explain yourself even more through this process because the way it kind of got twisted?
Yes, it seemed like teams were more worried about like my spine surgery more than like my knee, because like I mean that's all teams are asking about, and I'm like, man, I'm fine with my back. Really all they did was it was a microdiscectomy. They just went in there and just took that stuff that was on my nerve that was making me hurt, just took it off, and I was good. That was the only thing that was causing the pain. So
if you want to bore these two, I have also had a microdiscectomy, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Life-changing.
It was life-changing. It's very quick. It's amazing how quick though. Like it was literally, I was back like feeling like myself. This is not important.
Oddly enough,
Paul doesn't run like you.
No, not at all. I had to have a second one, so just beware. But that's just because I'm old.
So now, if someone says
that's getting
something's life-changing, we need to ask if it's good life-changing or
Yeah.
bad life-changing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like anything, like before I had the back issue, like every time I would hear like someone having a spinal surgery or something going on with their back, I'm like, oh snaps, that's scary. But it was minor. It was nothing. Like the scar is like this. It's like it's that big. It's not big at all.
So any fan that's kind of read any of these reports about like you and your injuries, like it's not really accurate. Like your back is fine.
My back is completely fine. It's
Your knee has
my
been more
knee.
of the issue.
Yeah, my knee is like my real like first like on field injury. My back was kind of like something that like should have been taken care of, but it,
Played through it.
Yeah, played through it and ended up having to get surgery.
But it's an ACL, and like half the league has had ACLs and come back. So the known nature of that probably makes it a little less. It's like if I just put in the work, I know that I'll get back. Like that's not as nervous as some other stuff.
When I first tore it, though, I was like, oh snap, because I never had an injury besides like an ankle sprain or something. But like, it was like, dang, like this is scary. But as I like now, like I'm like moving around, planting on my leg, and like everything's completely fine. I'm like, man, this is nothing. I'm gonna get through this. And like literally, I've been playing the game since I was 4. Like this is my first injury that I've ever had. So
I thought it was honest in a couple of different spots there. And like, look, yeah, it was life-changing. I'm scared to death. I never had an injury the entire time, and now I've got a back thing, and you don't know what it's going to be. And all of a sudden, you do get surgery, and it's immediately fixed. And so it's funny how things can get taken out of context and taken into different lights. I find that, where it's like, okay, maybe some of this is a bit overblown. The other side of that, Dave, is that nobody has had back problems like you have. Like if you've ever started down that road, I sort of joked there. I mean, I'm old, and it won't necessarily happen to you, and that's partially true. But I think the concern when NFL starts splitting hairs is you could have an issue where your spine is just does a few years later consistently end up pinching on nerves and become a concern as you go forward, and that can push you back a couple of rounds. Just that possible concern about what is down the line. But if it does prove to just be a minor deal and the microdiscectomy fixed it and that's that, then that's where you get the steal, and that's the chance that the Bengals took.
Yeah, it seems like just a risk reward situation for the Bengals. I mean, from everything I've read about the guy, and I don't profess to be an expert on him, but as his college arc went, without the injuries, he would have probably been picked a lot higher. So if you get back to what the guy was in his Michigan time, and then, once he got to Iowa, you could just have a lot of value there. But it's not like you risked a ton. It's not like you used a second-round pick on him or something. So it seems like his perspective is exactly right. He has to be a little scared at looking at you and being like, this is what I could become.
I hope I don't look like that.
Yeah, this is the worst.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, his career's over. I mean, they should just cut him right now to save the space.
He did seem to have just a very mature perspective on it and everything, and he kind of admitted that the knee is where the focus is, and he's got to get that right. But you're right though. The back is just a tricky one, and I think it would drop really anyone's stock, wouldn't it? Don't you?
Yeah,
think?
No, absolutely. But this is what happens.
Yeah,
with tight ends. I mean, specifically. So many of them come from back because there's some projective element that has to pan out. Even if you're going to use names like George Kittle, who was a 5th-round pick, which I dare you, please stop doing that. But like you take chances and you get development from guys that had something that you were concerned about, whether it was they would develop as a receiver or they, you just take a chance on somebody that has the profile that if things fall into place, it does work here. And you see that a lot at tight end. And so that could be a position where you could get something to pay off, but I don't think it's something that you count on. That's why he's in a great spot. They're not counting on him this year. Not only do they have him, is he fourth in the room? But there's another guy, Tanner McLaughlin, who was picked 2 rounds later. They don't have to have it. It's a great dice roll with 10 picks. And I think you like that aspect of the type of guy you seem to be getting, the reason you got him late, and the potential to get somebody that could pay off for you big in the long haul. Maybe if things pan out.
Don't you feel like maybe he's the next George Kittle though?
Yeah, I don't think I think we should just go ahead and they should just find a way to go against the rules and give him an early extension and pay him.
He's like Sam Laporta and George Kittle together
inside of a tornado.
Yeah,
with Jerry Rice's hands. Ugh. So anyway, and again, I hope Eric, for his sake, I hope he pans out, and I hope his back does not operate like mine did. So good for him. But anyway, wanted to just kind of bring you a little bit of Erick All and amongst the people that kind of we talked to, and you'll hear more from some of these guys as we go forward in the offseason. Reminder, schedule release is coming up on Wednesday night. We'll have it in full. I'm sure you'll get more early leakage as we go forward here between now and then. But we will have a reaction podcast on Thursday morning. Myself and Mark Shalafo with Who Day Light a day earlier. Because what other time to celebrate the weekend earlier than when you're booking trips and thinking about the fall? So send your questions to the growlerpodcast@gmail.com between now and then. If you have any, or if you have any schedule specific, get those in on Wednesday night or early Thursday morning, because we are recording early Thursday morning to get that thing to you. And of course, make sure you keep checking out all my work on The Athletic. Mock schedule is out, which includes all the criteria for what's good and bad and just weird about potential schedule things. Look out for Cole Burgess' story coming your way soon.
Somebody commented that you need the mock schedule simulator now. Choose. I love that's it. Our next step. And then you got to
level.
What other things do you need to start mocking? Do you need to start mocking like the owners' meetings? Things like that.
Mock owners meetings, mock votes, mock owners meetings votes. I predict it's going to be 24-8 for instant replay expansion, with the dissenters being. Yes, I love it. I love it. Let's do it. Oh, man. All right. Well, look out for mock owners meetings next March. Until then, we'll just stick with mock schedule. Who Day Light coming to you Thursday morning. Make sure you check it out. We'll have all the reactions. So thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will talk to you next time. Have a good one.